Mohammed Umar Farooq, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Looking at the case itself and the experience you went through while you reported initially in The Guardian and then republished and reprinted around the world a number of times, what makes your case so special and significant? Why is, I mean, many other Muslims have been accused of being terrorists. What makes your situation so unique or different? Tell us your case.
The way that the case happened was it was back in March. I just finished my Crimes of the Powerful module, and I moved on to the next module, which I was looking very forward to. I was kind of overly exuberant about it, excited almost. I was thinking, yes, this is going to be a great one to look at, research. Terrorism. Just the one word, terrorism. So initially, obviously, you get the module handbook, so on and so forth. And I was given some module handbooks, some documents that have been decommissioned, some that have been used in evidence in various court cases throughout the world, and I'd read through them. I moved on to, read this book called Terrorism Studies, a reader by John Holden and Kurt Baddock, both US scholars, leaders in the industry. So I was reading I went to the university and I sat down and there were two ladies sitting on my left and I was reading.
And where were you at the university at this time?
I was in the university library. Okay. And I was reading, highlighting, reading. And to be honest, I was in my own world. And they must have seen the cover because I kind of noticed a very strange look that I was getting. So I carried on and one of them said to me, "Oh, what are you reading?" I said, "Oh, terrorism I'm reading." "Oh, what's your name?" "Mohammed." Now, the only thing I can say is they must have made some sort of draw to this because I don't know who they are at the moment. So what happened here was one of them, who was a magistrate, and the other one turned out to be, and I didn't know I knew the magistrate was a magistrate studying law, and the other one I thought was quite simply a law student. I didn't know what she did. I didn't know whether she had another job. I don't know these people. I've never seen them. I've never heard their names.
So these two strangers had approached you, picked you out in the library, and engaged. They spoke to you.
The conversation started on their side. Then what happened was it was a question. The questions that I would ask were, "What do you think of ISIS throwing homosexuals off rooftops? Do you agree with sexual freedoms? Do you agree with homosexuality?" And initially, when this question's asked, I didn't think nothing of it. Again, I thought, okay, they're just kind of asking me questions. But at the time, I remember thinking very quickly, within a millisecond, it's got nothing to do with what I do, what I'm doing. So why would you ask me about that? Where is this leading? The next question was, prior to that, a few weeks earlier, 3 girls from this area, from East London, had gone to Turkey and moved on towards Syria and, were in ISIS territories and so on and so forth. So then they were asking me questions. Do you think that the parents are to blame for this, or do you think the police are to blame for this? So I said, my answer was quite simply, to put it quite quickly, was, well, we don't have enough law enforcement in this country to monitor everybody's children. Therefore, the parents need to take some ownership of what their children are doing. The next question I was asked was, what do you think of Al-Qaeda? And it kind of got more and more progressive. When I look at it now, it's as though I was being, pulled along further and further in. And that's what was happening because it wasn't until these women went. And as they went, I bidded them farewell. See you later. And I moved into a booth. When I moved into the booth, about half an hour later, I was reading and I looked to my left and I saw a security guard who was almost prancing about the library as though he's stepping on hot coals. Very peculiar sight was that. So I was looking to my left, wondering in my mind, what is he doing? I didn't once think that this would be for me. So he's looking, he looks left, he looks right, he's looking under, wherever he can see him now, he's looking. And then he stops and scratches his head. And I'm watching him, but he can't see me because it's tinted. So he looks across as though he fixes his eyes onto this booth. He walks over to this booth, and I kid you not, he is sweating. He opens the door to the booth, and he peeps in. As he peeps in, he takes a step back, and I say to him, obviously I don't want to name him, I say, "So-and-so, what seems to be the problem?" And he opens the door and said, "It's you." As though a sigh of relief. He breathes a sigh of relief and says, "It's you." And I said, "What do you mean it's you?" He said, "Mate, we have just been told there's a terrorist Al-Qaeda operative in this university." I laughed and laughed and he laughed and we laughed about it. We were in the pangs of laughter for a number of minutes because it's quite hilarious. So When he went, I thought to myself, I should let this go. I laughed about it. It's the humour is finished, and I packed up my stuff and I went home because I couldn't study. And I wouldn't say that it was bothering me, but when I got home, I thought, should I let this go? Should I let this go? Because at this moment in time, the shock of the whole issue, it hasn't hit me. The potentials and the factors that could have come from this, I haven't contemplated them yet.
So you've spoken about, the interaction you had with these two women who'd accused you of, who put a number of questions to you, should I say, as well. Some of them valid, justified, some of them unusual, suspicious, a bit out of the blue. And then you've spoken about the engagement with the security guard. This all happened within one day. It must have been quite a very, bizarre day for you. Yeah.
At this time, I'm none the wiser as to what's going to happen. And what happened next was, it was absolutely mortifying. What happened next was I cross-referenced and I went to the library security, and they were in the office, and I said to them, look, I've just want to find out about yesterday, and this is the email address that they've given me. And he said, my friend, he says, mate, she starts work at 8, she came in at 7. We finish at 7. I said, what do you mean? He said, she'd been in this morning and we've had a major argument in our office. At which stage I'm scratching my head thinking, what do you mean a major argument? He said, she has said to me, did you get his email and his name? And I said, I know him, it's okay. I can vouch for him. I've known him 5 years. I trust him enough to send my own children to the park with him. And she said, 3rd generation British does not mean a thing. There are too many red flags. So he's telling me this.
There's a security guard speaking to you.
He's telling me about what happened that morning.
With the lady, one of the ladies who spoke to you the day before.
Yeah. So then he said, I've told her, look, he's not what you think you are. How many Al-Qaeda operatives or terrorists do you see reading books in libraries? And she's saying it's the book that he was reading. So I'm reading, and he said that she said to him at that time, you never know what happens until the media shows up. You may have one living next door, or something to that matter. Meaning if there's a terrorist living next door to you, you're never going to know. You can never be too careful with his kind. His kind was also mentioned. At which stage I was so taken back. I felt as though the humour's ended there. You see what I mean? It's not funny now. And I went, who is she? So he's given me the name, and it was the complaints manager of the university. At which stage I've held my head, the student affairs complaints manager. I've held my head and I've started to think all sorts of crazy things. Is this a fix? Is she doing this to get at me? Is it because I'm Muslim? What a million different things ran through my head within 10 minutes. I don't know which way to turn. I don't know what to do. What was a joke only 5 minutes ago is now I'm absolutely livid at the fact that this can happen. It's an attack on my credibility. It's a stain on my honourability. So I was so taken back. I went home, I composed an email with all the events, and I then sent that over to the deans of various faculties, of everybody. And when I've sent this over, the next day I started to get a response, because what I found, which was very strange, is that I managed to put a complaint in before anybody. The aim was that they find me out and they investigate me without me knowing, which later come to light during mediation. But somehow I bypassed that, I don't know how. Through to my inquisitiveness, I've now put a complaint in and they still haven't put a complaint in. But what happened next was I went to a first stage investigation. The academic registrar appointed somebody independent. When I went to him, he said, Mohammed, if you can come to see me. I said, well, I can't today. He said, no, I need you to see me tomorrow because I'm going on holiday on Friday. This is on Tuesday, so it was very rushed. Went there, he interviewed me. He interviewed the lady in context, the lady who we're talking about, who made the allegation, and he interviewed security. And then I received a letter about a week later saying she acted well within her rights and, through policy. Now that doesn't sit right with me. Just to give an idea, I remember a specific question. The first question I was answered, hi Mohammed, I'm so-and-so, hello. How would you describe yourself? The first question. I said, what do you mean in terms of my academic capability, in terms of my mental state, in terms of my psychological state, in terms of my appearance? He said, no, your appearance. Because the way she described me to security was a bearded Asian man reading a book on terrorism at the back of the library.
So would you say the university was reluctant to even entertain the idea that there had been some wrongdoing?
The university didn't even believe that anything wrong had happened. They think it's okay. They obviously thought it was okay to describe somebody as a potential terrorist to security, because security acted, and rightly so, hats off to security. Had there been an occurrence, they worked perfectly.
So security did its job?
Security did its job. Security are probably the only ones that did their job and adhered to their policy. In fact, went beyond their own policy and remit. So what I would say is, when after this I rejected it, which is my right, and it went to the second stage. The second stage, mediation, I refused, because I was that defeated and that kind of hurt by this whole ordeal. It's affected me now in a stage where I won't go to the university. I won't read books in the university. I look over my shoulder everywhere I walk. I mean, in my eyes, I've never lived in a suspect society. I've always been what I am and been accepted for what I am. Now I'm in a situation where, as you can tell, I'm very extrovert, where I feel as though, I have to watch what I say and who I say it to. I'm treading on eggshells. I can't say too much because it may be perceived in the wrong manner, or somebody may report me for something. So I've had to change my whole persona. And not only that, you know, when you suppress yourself as an individual, I mean, we all know that there's various kind of scholars who looked into this. In a psychological sense, it takes a massive and profound effect on you, because you can't be who you are. You naturally are somebody, but you have to be somebody else. So you are suppressing your natural instincts. And when you suppress your natural personality types and instinctiveness, you become depressed, because you're not able to articulate yourself in the way that you can. And I became very, very, very depressed by this.
Explain to us a bit about the mediation process. I'm assuming you had a sitting with the accused, a member of staff of the university who was, like you said, as the student affairs complaints manager.
The way that it happened was this. Now, I like I said, I've never been to mediation. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but there was me. There was the Knightsbridge representative.
The solicitor.
Yeah, there was the complaints manager. There was her moral support. And the person who was conducting the mediation was the academic registrar. Now, the academic registrar is also her manager.
I see. And it's the same academic registrar who actually encouraged you to have this mediation session.
He's also her manager. Now, I don't know how that works, or whether it's a conflict of interest, or it does make sense to
What do you think?
I don't know. In my mind, surely, you know, naturally you'd have you'd lean towards the familiar face. You know, it's human judgment and human nature. You'd always lean towards somebody who is such as in society. You'll always find that people will always feel more comfortable with people who have something in common with them, share an office, speak the same language, eat the same food. There's something to talk about. So anyway, when I went there, my question throughout the whole mediation, which lasted about 45 minutes, was, what did I say? What did I do that led you to make this allegation against me? Please just tell me this so I can get closure. You just tell me this so I can get closure. I don't want a resolution, I'll walk away. I just want closure at the time. And she said, it was, I don't know. Her exact answer was, I don't know. At which stage I'm even more confused now. I'm saying, hold on.
This is the same member of staff who is insistent weeks before, demanding that security take action, take your name, take your ID card, there must be immediate action, and was confident as to you being a terrorist, despite studying terrorism.
And only a matter of weeks later, doesn't remember what I said. So my answer to that was, look, I said, when somebody offends you, I said the one thing that you remember naturally, anybody would, was the thing that offended them. Otherwise you have no right to be angry. Do you understand me? And I kid you not, she didn't understand that. Mohammed, you became exuberant. You were very passionate. This is what alerted me. This is passion for a subject that I once loved. Thanks to you, I don't anymore.
Well, my assumption would be for anyone studying a postgraduate course, you need to have some interest.
Some interest. It's essential that you have more than some interest. Otherwise, there's no point in you studying it, because postgraduate is where you get hands-on with the literature. And I'm sure you've done one, so you know that you develop your own academic ideas, you formulate them, and you're in a position now where you can start the debate. PhD is where the debate takes place, but you can start the debate, and you can, so I'm getting hands-on with this, and I'm loving this because it's building on my academia. But you've kicked the wind completely out of my sail. Her issue, I was not making any progress, so now I'm just completely defeated, and I don't want none of this. So I said to the academic registrar, I said at one stage in the mediation, I said, is this really working? I feel as though I've been taken for a run around the block. I offended somebody, they don't know how I offended them. Her opening statement was, Mohammed, I don't know anything about the Middle East, not a single thing. I don't know anything about Middle Eastern politics. I've never studied the Middle Eastern politics, Middle Eastern studies. I don't know anything. I wasn't taught it at school.
And mistakes happen all the time. I mean, she's got a job to do. She's a member of staff. It's her job to spot the signs of radicalisation, and she has to challenge it where she feels fit. I'm assuming she's had training, and I'm assuming that she's, in this case, may have made a mistake in her own words.
Let me ask you a question, or even anybody. What is radicalisation? If you don't know what you're looking for, how are you then how do you go into society and stop it? I find that absolutely ludicrous. I find it horrific that you're empowering people who know nothing about nothing to go out there and spot people.
Do you not feel that we're being a bit harsh on you from an institution, on as member of staff, and sadly that we're going to have to see a few, mistakes, a few, issues like this?
What I'm saying to you is, how has it reached this stage? We need to look at the premise. The university has acknowledged fault. I agree. Is the issue resolved? No. Because now the university needs to speak and liaise with me on how we can resolve this issue and how I can feel comfortable enough to come back to university. Have you taken a normal British person and turned them into somebody who watches over their shoulder and doesn't trust society? Yes. Have you created suspicion in the realms of my mind? For sure you have.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Mohammed Umar Farooq, thank you for speaking to Cage.
No problem.